Welcome to the Grind and Gratitude Show. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much. If you're an avid listener, then you already know I got a lot of love for you. My name is Danny Stone, also known as Coach Stone, is in the building. I'm the host of the Grind and Gratitude Show. And every single week, you get a brand new episode to help you level up your life, your business, your relationships, your finances, your mindset, your habits. That's what this show is all about. And we want to say thank you to the listeners in over 55 countries for tuning in. Like, we just really appreciate it. We really appreciate the love and the messages that we get, and really excited to keep this going. And thank you for helping us to reach more than 100 episodes. So super excited for that. And we're committed to keep going. But as you know, every time I bring you guys a guest, you guys hit me up and you say, wow, like the guest was really amazing and you want to dive in and find out more. Well, I only bring you people that I believe in. I only bring you guests that I think are going to help you to see something different or do something different. And my guest today is a very special guest. He's a great friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time, and I'm super happy that he's here. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a self-made entrepreneur. Ryan is the face and the soul behind the ever popular Instagram account at Eat Famous. Now, if you haven't seen Eat Famous, you got to check this account out. Arguably one of the most sought after food culturalists in the country. Ryan has used his platform to elevate both brand and cause with his unique style and technique. With an organic following, so we have to say organic following of over, I checked today, 264,000 followers on Instagram. You guys heard me right. 264,000 followers. And check this out. His hashtag has been used over 4 million times. I mean, that's amazing. We got to definitely dive into all these secrets. Ryan continues to amass a fleet of top-tier clientele seeking his expertise, including McDonald's, Air Miles, Google, American Express, the Toronto Raptors, the Bay, Domino's, Hershey's Canada, A&W, the LCBO, and others. So welcome to the Grind and Gratitude Show, my boy, Ryan Hinkson. How you doing, brother?
I'm great, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's so funny, because we've known each other for so long, to like hear you talk about me in that context when it's just family. It was funny to me. I'm just like, oh man, like hopefully I didn't give Danny too much on that on that intro or bio.
Nah, there could have been, I'm sure there's a lot more. So I appreciate you for scaling back. Most of the time, people send me pages and pages, and I'm like, I can't read this. Man, I'm so happy you're here. How are you, man?
You know what? I'm doing beautifully. And this is something we might get into a little later, because I know, in the past we've had some deep conversations off of camera and even in front of camera. But something I would love someone like yours perspective on is like, the last couple of years for a lot of people have been a very trying time. And I used to have a little bit of like trepidation and anxiety about expressing how great I'm doing or feeling, because, you don't want to come off like a jerk. You don't want to feel like you're out of touch with, what's happening. But I think I find a way to kind of just try to put the blessings and what I'm grateful for first, grind and gratitude ahead of things. And that's not to say I'm, unaware or, not thinking about other people's problems, even if I'm in a season where I might not feel like I have any. But I'm doing great. I know sometimes that might feel a little inappropriate to say off the top, in these times when so many people seem to be kind of stressed about a bunch of different things, but I can't lie, I'm doing fantastic, man.
I disagree. I mean, I think you speak your truth. Like, if you're doing well, you're doing well. If you're not, you're not. It's really up to you. And I don't think you should feel guilty for all of the hard work that you put in. Like, the reason that you're doing great is because you put in the work, and it's not just in your business, in your family, in your personal life. So yeah, man, I don't see it as bragging whatsoever. I see it as Ryan's been putting in this work, and that's what we're going to talk about, because sometimes when people see the 264,000 followers and the 4 million people using your hashtag, they don't know the road that it took to get here. And so it's okay to just bask in like, you know what, I am doing great, because I always wasn't doing great. So I have no issues with that at all.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
That's a great way to start, bro. But you and I, we met, I think it's more than 10 years, I think.
Oh, it's gotta be easily.
way
Easily.
more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember we met through some mutual friends, and I remember meeting you at like a house party or something,
Yeah.
like a nice little get together. And
Yeah.
this guy comes in, you come in, and I'm like, man, this brother is dressed like your style. I like your style, right? Like,
Same. It goes the same way. It goes the same way.
So, like, I really like the style and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, how does like style kind of play into this whole thing that you're doing with food? First of all, tell everybody what Eat Famous is all about.
Cool. So Eat Famous, I guess primarily would be known as an Instagram account. It's a food-focused account that I run, but I mean, it's definitely turned itself into a brand. It's also kind of fixated itself as my alter ego or nickname. I could be in a mall or at an event and people are like, yo, Eat Famous. Like, some people don't know that my name is Ryan. So, I mean, it's a multitude of things, but for most people, it's an account on Instagram where people can just come and, see me indulging in food, expressing my opinions on food, using content creation to just share food experiences, travel experiences. And the funny thing is it was definitely not something that was planned. It came out of a business idea. Shout out to my boy, Terry Diram, who had an incredible business idea about 10 years ago that kind of put me on this train, because prior to that, I did no social media at all. Like,
wow.
Twitter, I didn't even have a Facebook account. So maybe
really
5 years ago, until like Instagram was making it impossible to do work with brands unless you had a Facebook account. So I was slow to the game in terms of social media. So to find myself at the front of an account that has allowed me to, work for myself, become an entrepreneur, it's pretty incredible, man. It's pretty incredible. And the style thing, I think, for me, and I gotta give it out to my pops first, because he's a style guy. Everything that I got in terms of putting value, in terms of, he always was like, act like you either just came from somewhere or you got to go somewhere, right? And I feel like I try to have that bleed into the photography, and the way I capture food. When I go out and present myself, I try to put that best foot forward. Not just obviously in terms of surface, how I am with people, my interactions, being genuine. But yeah, I feel like if you look good, like what did Dion say? If you look good, you play good. If they play good, they pay good. So Deion Sanders, my pops, what I mean? All those were early influencers in terms of how I value style and just how kind of things look. And I think that's why I've been able to have an account that people are very, very fond of, like the images and how things look. Because I can't say I'm like a food critic or anybody who might have, or at least when I started, much more knowledge than the average person in terms of what was good, where to eat, and what have you. But I know how to make things look good, I think.
That's awesome, man. I love how you incorporate the different things that you love into one thing. And a lot of people don't think that you can do that. We're living in a world now where you can combine 5 or 6 of your different passions and make that a business. It wasn't the case even 6, 7, 10 years ago. I couldn't say that I love music and I love motivational speaking and I love writing and combine all those things. People would tell me they have to be separate. And so I love the fact that you brought the things that you love together, right, and made a business of it. And I think even still, people still have to wrap their minds around, you can do lots of things and put it all into one or separately if you want. So
no, I totally agree. There's something that you did, not to cut your point, but it's funny because it was probably just a story. It was a story that you did. I don't know if you were celebrating something or something was coming up, but you were playing, and I know everybody uses the music feature on Instagram, so it's not brand new. But I took this specifically and I put it in my pocket. You were playing "We Win." It's Lil Baby and Kirk Franklin, and you were just vibing. And I was like, man, like how Danny used the music and like his just your like that very real moment. I was like, he's definitely feeling this. This wasn't like staged or I'm gonna have to do this 10 times. You're like, when you see something, genuine article. And I was like, right, like put that into what you do. Because I was like, a lot of times we're chasing like a very specific aesthetic or feeling. And I think sometimes we forget that that can be communicated on one take or in one real emotion. Like, someone might think, oh, this guy's a coach who helps people in business and in their lives. He would have to be very, very serious, but like that. And it's funny, like, it wasn't just like, oh, this song is dope, but like that to me is just like it's like the essence of somebody who gets it, man. So, just there was a point that you made in terms of having different interests, be able to build up one thing. And I think, you've obviously shown that in a lot of ways. And that was just a small example. But like, I think, understanding that, like, for you to help people be the best that they can be, I think you've tapped into like, be the real Danny, be the best Danny, because how can you help someone be the best them if you're not, truly you? So wow. I really feel what you say in terms of bringing, and I was like, obviously this man's a music lover, you know what I mean? Because it felt natural. And I think Absolutely. That's what works in terms of driving people to success, is being as natural and you as possible. I think that's another thing that you couldn't really do as many years ago, is like really be yourself. I think today, there's more reward in that. Yeah, we have so many more images and so many more reference points in terms of like, because the globe is always shrinking, we have access to more people. You would think that people would do more copying or mimicking, but I think what I'm taking from it is like, I'm seeing a whole bunch of people do them, and I love that. So.
Man, that's a great observation, and thank you for catching that. There's this thing that we have in coaching. It's called dancing in the moment. Okay. Like, you got to dance in the moment, and basically dancing in the moment means, like, as a coach, you can't make up your mind to have an outcome based on your conversation with someone. I can't come into you and say, okay, I want Ryan to walk away with this. I got to learn to dance and go with you. I have to go with your flow. I have to learn to dance in the moment with you. And I think as a coach, it's really important to be able to do that. But just in life, like, people don't realize, and I'm glad you caught that, 99% of my social media posts is what I'm thinking at that time. I don't plan it.
Yeah.
So my wife is she's the opposite. She's a TV guest expert. She's a culinary nutritionist, and her posts are amazing. Yeah. She plans out what she wants to do for the week or whatever. Me, I wake up and I'm like, this is what I feel like saying.
Yeah.
And so that's how it comes. And then for you to catch that, I used to be a former DJ and I love music, right? I love motivating people. So it's come by, you caught it, right? You definitely caught it. Like,
so that always stuck out with me, like, and it's especially when we think about today and how much messaging we see. For me I'm sure that was over a month ago, for me to catch it and remember it. It says a lot, because it's tough to stick these days, even when you're good.
Yeah. Well, that we're going to talk about your massive social media following in a minute, but like, what were you doing before you got into this? Like, what's your background in terms of what you were doing?
Man, so when I started, I was probably midway through a very long corporate career at Coca-Cola. I actually did most of the building of Eat Famous. And I mean, not at the point in terms of where I was just posting or where it was an account, but I mean, in terms of like, working with brands, having partnerships, having a side hustle that fully functioned as a 9-to-5. And then, you kind of get into that space where you're like, do I leave and like bet on myself and do my own thing? And that came eventually, but it's still, that phase is pretty new. So yeah, I was at Coca-Cola, West Indian parents. So like, to them, it was like, okay, yeah, he went to school,
what did you study?
I did marketing in school. Okay. Yeah, I did marketing. And then got a job at a company. So like, to other people, the boxes were checked, but to me, they were empty, because I mean, again, I'll reference gratitude, not just because I'm on this pod, but definitely I can't, knock what that job did for me in terms of being able to, like, not just pay the bills, but like certain relationships, like directly the person that taught me about social media, I met at that job. You know what I'm saying? Some of my best friends who I consider family, I met at that job. skills that I met in terms of dealing with, certain clientele or different functions of a business helped me, with what I'm doing today. So I don't want to completely like dump on it, but I was just doing the 9 to 5 thing, and this kind of popped up, and it felt right. I've always been a person that as long as I've been kind of working a regular gig, I've always been doing something else creative, hoping that it would kind of pop. I did music for a lot of years, and then I had to kind of figure that wasn't happening, gave that up, and then also while working corporate, I had kind of joined these guys who had set up a really, and this might strike a chord with you because I know you ball as well. It was a men's basketball league, and I was doing marketing for them. We were trying to look at like the landscape of like organized ball in the city and see if like we could elevate it a bit, like do something where there was like a really dope like all-star game with like voting and like just and we put a couple good years in and it didn't hit, but I was happy doing that. So I've always been someone that's like, I could go on the straight and narrow for whatever amount of time, but I always need that something creative to keep the juices going. And there was a situation, I think COVID and reassessing, the importance of really kind of grasping moments because we don't know when things are going to switch was a huge influence in terms of me just saying, hey, you know what, I got to do this like full time, just me and bet on myself. And yeah.
So like it happened during COVID. Like when did you just, because a lot of people are probably listening, like, they're doing the same thing. I used to work in the corporate world and I had side hustles the whole time.
Yeah.
And so, how did you know when it was time for you to make that transition? Because there's people right now in that current situation. Yeah. What did you do and how did you know the time was right for you to leave your job?
So for me, I probably had a little bit of a cheat code. So as you know, I had a baby just about coming up on 2.5 years ago. So she was born just before COVID. She was born on Boxing Day 2019.
Wow.
Right. So
amazing.
So, she comes into the world, life is beautiful. And when she turns 6 months, I decide to take 6 months pat leave just to be able to spend some time with her.
Right.
And at that time, COVID hit in March. So then I think I started like my pat leave. So I was working from home in March, like full time from when COVID started up until say June or July. I took a mat leave, and then I had 6 months of just being with her. And then with the early stages of COVID, everybody's in the house, so I spent so much time with this girl, and it was like, again, it was like the blinders from all the madness, and it was just like I was like, my days are beautiful. Like they're absolutely beautiful. The work from home time, just being around her, even though it was working, it's tough, was amazing. But then the pat leave, I'm like, I'm just with her. But then, of course, at that time, I have, you kind of balance things because a baby's very demanding, but it's still giving me a sprinkle of more time to do Eat Famous stuff. And I'm like, things that were a little scary, like the numbers adding up and meeting responsibilities month to month, it was becoming very clear. Even though it should have been in terms of just the fact of what it lit in me all those years ago, that should have been clarity enough. But, sometimes it isn't. But when the numbers were adding up and like there was no other kind of distraction, I was in a mindset where I kind of just started sprinkling it out there as I was getting close to having to go back to work. Just, conversations with people like saying, hey, man, if you can think of anything for me, because I was still in the frame of mind of like, it's probably a good idea to have a job. I just knew I needed a change from the kind of work I was doing. Because even though I went to school for marketing, I wasn't doing marketing. And I feel like if I was doing marketing at a 9 to 5, that probably would have like quenched those creative fires, but I wasn't. So I was kind of having just more conversations, putting it out there, trying to manifest a change. And an opportunity came up. It was with a startup. So I was like, you know what? I left Coke after almost 17 years. It was like 16 years and like a day before 17. Yeah. And then I left for this other situation, which again, it didn't work and it just didn't work out, but it was quick. So it was like 2 months.
But did you regret that? Did you regret that?
No, because I don't know if I would have left Coke to just do Eat Famous. And it's like, I'm a big believer in cliches because I'm like, if someone's saying something for a long time, there has to be some truth in it. And that whole vision, hindsight is 2020. That really came into effect. Like, it was like, right, you could have left a long time. You could have. But you're gone now. So when that other situation didn't work, I came home, had a conversation with my wife, and she was just like, why don't you just do your own thing? Like, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to, and that was it. And just haven't looked back since.
Bro, that is a crazy journey, because other people would say, because you had a baby, you should have just toughed out. You should have toughed out the Coca-Cola thing and just for another 10 years and retired. But like it's a whole different type of mindset. And it's, I talk about this to people all the time. It's like, you have to have the discipline to follow your curiosity.
Yeah.
And give yourself permission to fail at the same time, because when you do those two things, you actually give yourself permission to succeed.
Right.
There's so many of us who know we should be doing something that we're passionate about for years. Like, it took me a long time to leave my corporate job, and I kept dipping my toes in and out. And but one of the things that I like that you said was, you actually sat down, you looked at the numbers, you looked at how much money do I need to make, and what are my bills, and now I have a daughter. And I think that's so important, because a lot of people talk themselves out of doing what they love for a living or becoming an entrepreneur because they just think it's impossible, when they really haven't even sat down to like, how much money do I need? Make a plan. Like, okay, I'll save up a year's worth of bills before I actually leave. There's so many things we can do if you sit down and just look at it like you did.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I mean, there's a multitude of reasons of why people don't. And, a lot of times I think it's probably fear, or, sometimes it's just, there feels like there's so much going on. And I remember I was thinking like, man, are people going to think I'm nuts? Like, but then again, like, no disrespect, but who cares?
Yeah.
Because like, if you know me, I'm not going to do anything to like endanger my family, put us at risk, or, put myself first. Not that there's anything wrong with putting yourself first. I mean, in like a negative way where I wasn't considering anything and I'm just like blindly chasing something, because no, I wanted to get rid of that quote unquote security, because it's not as secure. I've seen how many people, I saw the people way more qualified to be at Coke and get chopped, or when they even presented their superiors with the idea that they might leave, there was no effort made to keep them, right? So what, and I mean, I excel when I'm engaged and I'm part of like something's direction. I can be very honest, I'm not a good worker. You know what I mean? I'm a great guy. Like, I'm that guy that like, yo, Ryan knows where we should go for lunch. Ryan's cracking jokes. Ryan complimented my shoes. Genuinely, not like on some fake stuff, but like, I know, like, I think I did well in my corporate jobs because like I'm great to be around. You know what I mean? But in terms of like being a great worker, buying in, trying to like lift something that's not mine up, that's not really me. So I was like, how far is like, being the dude that everybody loves really going to get you in terms of like success, or having something where you can like show this to your daughter and say like, look what I did. I know my best chance at showing her that she could do anything is to try to do anything myself, right? So to me, it was the best time. It wasn't the worst time.
That's great. I really love that too. And it's like, you're right. It's like, what message are you sending to your daughter or your family or whatever, or the world, when you tell people they can be anything they want to be, yet you're anxious and frustrated and don't want to go to this 9 to 9 job every day, and your family and your friends can see it, but you can be what you want to be, but I have to slug it out for another 10 years. Like, what type of message are we telling ourselves, and what type of message are you putting out to whatever you believe in, God, the universe? Right. It's like, I want more, but I'll just settle for this, right? So I love the fact that you set a bigger goal for yourself, you follow the curiosity, and you just decide, you know what, I want to build my own thing. I want to build my own thing.
Right. And it's tough. And I mean, when we're enjoying like the fruits of our rewards, we can't forget about the days that we had no fruit, because that's what makes the fruit taste sweet. I'm gonna tell you, man, like I remember, and this was like, and there's a couple people I know, because a lot of times in life, like we look to like say like or people will look to celebrities or people that are like massive or people like that they can't really access or touch as like the only people who have done like big things or things that we wouldn't know how to do. I remember when you wrote your first book and you had invited us to the launch, and I was like, yo, how does somebody write a book? Like, and I'm not a dumb person, you know what I mean? But it was like no one around me had done that before. You know, it's funny because you're the first person that I know that I can say, like, I know this person for real that did something huge, like write a book. Now, I've met, like being in the food space, I know a couple of chefs with cookbooks and things like that. But like, and it's still like an incredible achievement. But I remember when you had done it, I was like, and he's a brother. And like, you know, we have like this, we're not, you know, how the world will see us is not generally lost on us. Right. So it's like, oh my gosh, somebody got behind this brother to like tell people what to do. Like we could tell people what to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like your messaging was on point. Like, yeah, you have the keys now, drive. Like, but it's still kind of like, it was, at least at the time to me, it was weird. I was like, wow, like, it's like a real book. You know? Yeah. So that was something where like, I see those kind of things and all these kind of things. Just like one of my boys, actually my same boy I referenced at the top of the pod, Terry, he owns several like buildings. And I was like, you're buying a building? But I'm never the kind of person to be like, oh, like hate or not. Like I might not understand it, or I might be like, wow. But then I'm like, oh, okay, yo, Danny can write a book, Terry can buy a building. Like these aren't things that I saw my dad do, my uncles do, you know, my parents' friends do.
Right.
You know, I mean, most of them came here from somewhere else and had other priorities and other things they had to build upon. But like people like yourself, you know, and when we did the Summit for Excellence with Sean, like when you can reference people that you know doing things that before aren't within the realm of your possibility, it's so huge. So, you know, when we talk about the fact that a lot of people, you know, you reference that like people won't even try to make a plan. I think it's because we don't think we can. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't think we can. I gave a talk at a graduation ceremony for the future Black leaders of tomorrow. Oh, and wow. So what they do is basically provide mentorship for kids who have business ideas, help them develop their business plans and such. And like, the biggest thing that they were saying is like, you know, you don't have to try to like wow these kids. Just let them know that like you actually did what you're showing them, because a lot of us just don't think we can do it. You know what I mean? Like it just, these things seem so foreign, whether it's like communally, socially to us, that it's like, if we don't have a reference for it, like how could we do it? So what you're doing here, you know, giving myself a platform, giving all the other people that you speak to a platform, you know, sharing your stories, that's part of the bigger work, right? Because just the possibility that we could do it. Like if there's no birds, the Wright brothers probably aren't thinking about flying. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not building planes. If you like that, that's inconceivable enough seeing but you're at least, you like you said, allow yourself to be curious. How's that bird out there flapping its wings?
Right.
So, you know, I try not to get too down on people who may not like see the vision, you know what I'm saying? Or believe in stuff right away. Because again, like I said, me and you are, you know, we're friends, but I also consider us peers. Yeah. And at a time, I was baffled by what you were able to do. Yeah. Right. So,
yeah. You make excellent points, man. I think one of the things that I talk to people about is like, you know, who is your life support network? I talk about it in the book. Like, who are the people that you spend the most time with? Because if you have 5 friends that are naturally curious and doing things, you're going to be the 6th person. If you're around 5 people that are constantly negative or who have limited beliefs or they set the bar low in terms of their goals, you're going to be the 6th one. So a lot of it is really I call it a reality check, having a reality check about your life and the people that you're spending time with, and really saying like, are they supportive? Are they encouraging? And are they exploring? And for a lot of us, it's not, right? You go to a job, everybody complains about not wanting to be there, yet you're still there for 40 years. You know, you talk to your friends, oh, you know, I'd love to travel to this place. And they're like, why don't we just go to the normal places we always go to? You know, so all of these things, it's difficult for you to kind of flap your wings, because every time you get curious and you want to put yourself out there, you have people telling you all the reasons it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so Les Brown said it best: other people's opinion of you is none of your business.
Yeah.
If they're not for you,
so many gems, but that's one of the top ones.
It's not, if they're not for you, then don't worry about it. And I think, Ryan, one of the things that we have to realize is, because we were those people too, that when people, at some point in our lives, when people decided to step outside of the mold of working your corporate job and living this life that society tells you to live, we were skeptical at some point in time. We were like, well, that person's crazy. So I think what we have to understand is that everybody's at a different phase in their journey, but you don't need permission to be curious. You don't need permission to just say, you know what, I want to know more about that. You don't need permission, and you shouldn't expect other people to believe in your goals and your dreams when they can't even believe in their own.
Yeah. This
right.
So, and you take it less personally too. Because, if like, sometimes you have some news, you share it, and like, say like the homies aren't as excited as you think they would be. And sometimes you're like, are they hating? Are they jealous? Or it's not as, but like some people have so many things going on, or some people may not just be able to comprehend like these things, right? So it's not that they don't care, that they don't want to support necessarily, but it's kind of like, when you're on an airplane and they tell you, when they're doing all the safety precautions and everything, and they're telling you like, if you're with a kid and something happens, you put your mask on before you put theirs on, right? So like, until we can kind of breathe and focus and do what's right for us, it doesn't make sense to try to do it for someone, right? So focus is a big thing, right? Like people's opinions, all those things. You have a trusted circle or people that you really believe that have your best interests at heart. And you use them, of course, like go to them, bounce ideas, get your reality checks, ask them, if you're tripping. That's fine. But to be constantly kind of concerned or worried about what people think at the end of the day, like, and I mean, even those closest who might have like nothing but love for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember the biggest thing I was worried about in terms of when I was deciding to leave the job was telling my folks, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, they, you jump on a video call with them, they're like, are the baby socks long enough? She looks cold. So I'm going to tell them now, like, oh, I'm not working for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, but they were fully supportive because, and it was beautiful because, like, they've seen the work, over the last few years, you know what I'm saying? And I've, done things, I guess, that, they can reference, they can like send a clip of, me being on like TV to their friends or put it on their Facebook or whatever. So even that, me kind of thinking I was going to hit this wall of rejection from them, that didn't even happen. They're like, okay, once you're good, and we believe that you can do it. This is great. So a lot of times we're throwing all these roadblocks and fears that like we're creating a response or reality for someone that might not even be the case.
Absolutely.
Like, sure, we know people and we're, but like, we don't want to always be so concerned with what we think is going to happen. Things are going to happen. And, aside from a couple things, the worst thing is if something could, take you at your life and put you in the ground. And then, to be honest, at that point, what are you going to do about it anyway? Right? Most things are not as scary as they seem,
Good point. And one thing is great that your parents were so supportive. And, one of the things I talk about, Ryan, all the time is that I say this all the time. One of the biggest lies we've ever been told in our lives is that you just got to believe in yourself. Like that's the biggest lie ever. Nobody gets started when they fully believe. Oprah, Elon Musk, nobody ever gets started when they believe.
Right.
I always say progress equals belief. The more progress you make in your life, any area of your life, your business, your relationship, the more progress you make, the more you start to be like, wait a minute, I can actually make this thing better. Wait a minute. And you start raising the bar.
Yeah.
So in yourself, you start to believe it. But here's what's interesting. When you said this about your parents, here's what's interesting. Other people start to believe it.
Yeah.
All of those people, like no one thought I was going to write a book. Mm-hmm. I made a mistake and told a few people, and I'm like, I'm writing a book. They're like, yeah, that's great. We've heard that before. Yeah. And then I pop up and I'm like, what do you think about this name? And they're like, man, get out of here. Then I sent the book cover and they're like, Why would he do a book cover? Okay. Then I started a Facebook page. Then I started a website. Yeah. Then I said, the book is out. You're coming to the book launch. Yeah. So at every phase, I started believing I could do it. And at every phase, all those people that were like laughing at me were like, yeah, why is he doing a book cover? And all of a sudden, so progress equals belief. And I think that's what you've seen in yourself, I'm sure. And that's what your parents and other people have seen. Even your wife, like, I'm sure she's seen that. She believed in you just like my wife did. But once she started seeing me on stages and speaking and, oh, Danny's amazing. She's like, damn, this dude can speak. Like, but it's progress equals belief. Right. So that kind of came up when you were talking about your parents, right? So,
yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And I remember, like, I mean, again, you know, we're all grown, but there's certain people that it's just like, yo, I'm grown to a point, you know. But their response was amazing. And again, it's a testament to, I guess, you know, what they've seen, right? And I think that's another thing that we, you know, sometimes don't talk about too, is like accountability, because it's great to have goals and dreams and stuff. But I think, you know, what gets lost with some people is they expect, you know, the applause or the understanding or the support out the gate without maybe giving people any reason to believe that they're going to do this. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, so at a point, it's like you said, like, or you just kind of focus in on what you have to do, and you save the announcements for later, or like you just do it. Like, yeah, okay, there's a book cover. Why would he have a book cover? Right. And like at that point, it should have been like, oh shoot, he's really doing it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Hey.
So like, what was your childhood like? Were you always into food and around food? Like, what was like in terms of food and like your just childhood? What was that like?
So this is funny. So I mean, you know, loved food always. But like, two things stand out with Eat Famous, because I mean, you know, if you look at the page on like a surface kind of level, quickly kind of flip through, you're gonna notice primarily like the burgers with like 4 patties, or the slice of pizza that's as long as me. But mixed within that, there's a lot of just a lot of things that like are from all over the place, whether it's, you know, comfort food to fine dining. I eat foods from all across the world. I've had things that people say I'm crazy for having. I've had, don't cut me off the show or anything, I've had like beetle stew, I've had horse hearts, I've had frog legs. I say this to say that in answer to your question, I was the pickiest kid growing up. So the fact that I'm doing something to do with food and like tons of food, you know, is wild to me. Like no one who knew me as a kid would ever think that like I would be doing what I'm doing now. Also to not related to food, but just like my younger self growing up, super shy, didn't like to be the center of attention, didn't like to talk, wasn't really into like putting my opinions out there. So to be on social, eating all kinds of stuff, and to be telling people like, I think this, you should go here, this is the best, very wild for me. So that's another thing that people need to take away, is that like, you know, change and develop, you're never going to be one way forever. You're never, ever going to be one way. But yeah, like I come from a family who all love food. You know, I have one sister, grew up with both my parents in the home, who were great cooks. So, and then
what's
my
your
mom
background?
Oh, my folks are both from Barbados.
Okay, Barbados. Yeah.
And my mom's one of 10, 11, like 8 or 9 of which were all here in the city, 7 of which at least 2 kids or more. So like 20 something first cousins. Everybody's in the same city. So the family gatherings are crazy. Food is the center of everything, you know? So, I mean, there was always a love for it, but between me being picky and then also my sister could cook, my dad could cook, my mom could cook, and I kind of just coasted. Like I was like, I'm just enjoying this. And then I remember when I was moving out for the first time, I was like, yo, what am I going to do? And I think I spent like 2 months, a month in the kitchen with like moms mostly, and even my dad, and just like made them like show me their like all my favorite things.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like, you know, like although I've always had a passion for food, for it to be part of like my job is wild. And then a very interesting thing, if you'll allow me to kind of get into this,
Sure.
I said I love food to a point of almost damage. So I want to say it's probably been a long time now, over 10, probably before we had met actually around that time. Just prior to that, I lost about 65 pounds. So I had spent a lot of years drastically overweight. Like very overweight. Yeah, I remember part of the things that sparked the change was a doctor telling me I was like this close to being pre-diabetic, pre-obesity. And I was
what age?
20s, in my early
20s.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, and it had been for a while. I always say God bless like 90s hip hop style, like being able to wear 44, size 44 pants and triple X hoodies and stuff saved me, because a lot of people were like, yo, you weren't that big. You weren't big. I was, trust me. So I had just before starting Eat Famous and stuff, I lost, like 65 pounds.
Wow.
And so
how'd you lose the weight?
Three things. Just eating better, intermittent fasting, and I was like, okay, this is going to be hard. If I can figure out the thing I hate doing the most, I know I can drop it. So I started running, because running was like
I'm with you.
I could not do. And I remember before I couldn't jog to like the hook of a song. And I remember it was a big celebration. Like when I'm trying to remember the song. It was because I used to listen to the same song all the time. I was like, if I can get from just the hook, the beginning of the hook to the end, I could do this. And then I remember being able to like jog for 2 hours straight.
Wow. That's amazing, man.
Yeah. Okay. So food, I've had a complicated, interesting relationship with food. And then as Eat Famous started to gain popularity, I'm going to restaurants 4 or 5 nights a week. I'm eating everything for free. And then again, although I try to cover a full scope of culinary stuff, I know where I hit home runs is like when I give you that food porn and those overly indulgent things and those things that you could gain weight by just looking at. So in the back of my head now, I'm like, right, we can't go back to what you do. You got to find a way to figure out how to still continue to do this, right? Because it's working for you and you love it, but you have to still be able to control like your weight, your health, because there's no going back, right? So trying to manage to find the balance in between like being someone that's a presence and having, like Trudy can tell you, like having enough content all the time it would be a blessing to be doing what she's doing, because more content she has, just the better for her, health, fitness, wellness. But for me, I'm kind of, tippy-toeing on the side of things that can be dangerous. And then, also my conscience now, because I know what, not paying attention to what you're eating and, having a high caloric intake and not managing properly did to me. So it's wild, because you might look at the page and be like, oh, wow, he's pumping out all these things that aren't good for you. But I try to inject, like through the captions or whatever that, let people know, like, this is a snapshot of like a very well managed, highly curated life. It's not like I'm throwing these things in the garbage after. No, I don't believe in food waste or anything like that. But, I walk a very fine line, because I'm not trying to push anybody to, what I was struggling with before. Right. I mean, there's accountability in that though, right? Because there's someone that can look at my page and not let it influence the way they eat. I mean, I create this page and I'm still able to somewhat, have a healthier kind of life. Yeah. But there's so many kind of components that go into things. And I think, again, when we think about, people who are successful, and I'm not just referencing myself, is that like, people will always ask us, because we get the most questions when we're doing well, right? We don't really get the questions on the come up. So people, oh, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? And it's like, however we choose to answer them, I don't know if there's anything that can really be said to explain like how much real work it takes, because there's so many things that could have taken me away from food. I could have just been like, I don't want to be overweight again. I'm stopping, but I was like, no, I got to figure out a way to do both, right? Like, you speak in front of people. I'm sure the assumption is that like, you can, that you can do it with your eyes closed. But I'm sure even myself, I speak to people a lot now, but like before every speech, I still get that little hinge of like, you
Yeah.
know, those butterflies and everything in my stomach, even though I've done it. You know, like you're in, even in dream jobs and in your calling, there's going to be points that like are going to pull at you. I don't, you know, I don't know of anyone who's doing something that other people covet that, you know, it doesn't come with a whole lot of like just maneuvering around a ton of pitfalls, right? So it's like, you know, people see reward the life. They're like, oh, you eat at restaurants, you do this, you do that. And I'm not saying that I have the toughest job in the world. I love my job, but like, you know, understand that there's a lot.
Right. It's still work. It's still work. And, you know, two things. First thing is like, I like the fact that you know, you've had this challenge with food, and yet you still decided to go forward and do this business where you're out here, like you said, eating all of these like, you know, hearty foods. And what that shows is that like, you can't rule yourself out for your dream. Like you can't get in your own way. You found a way to get around that and still maintain your health and your wellness. And the other thing about what you do is that it's a snapshot. We can all indulge every once in a while. Like you're not telling people to go out here and eat this every day. You're like, okay, once a month or once every couple of weeks. Like if there's a real restaurant you want to go to and really indulge, then do it. So
choose one, right?
Yeah, and I love the feed, and I love the commentary that you bring to this as well. It's like there's an excitement about the food. There's an excitement about trying something different. And I think whether people choose to relate it to food or whatever, relate it to anything in your life, just get excited about trying something, doing something different. I've never traveled to this place. There's a place in my city that I've never gone to. I've never went for a hike. Like just get curious and get excited about, you know what? The same way Ryan and Eat Famous bring us these indulgent things and it's really visually appealing and they're always trying something. Maybe everybody who goes to your account should look at their own life and look at something they're curious and passionate about and just be curious and say, you know what? Once a week or twice a week or once a month, I'm going to go and explore this.
Yeah, right.
That's a big take for me.
I love that. I think that makes so much sense. And it's not just, you know, it's kind of like, you remember when like hip hop, well, I mean, we were like when hip hop was like really kind of grabbing like the world by its neck. And, you know, it was always like, oh, well, you know, they're sampling, so they're stealing music, or this is not real music. And it's kind of like, you know, or I don't like how that sounds. And it was kind of, you know, you would have people that were like trained in music and you would think that like, you could understand that you don't even have to like do or love something to like still appreciate what's, you know, beautiful about it, like what it can represent outside of what you think it is. Because then you have, you know, on the other spectrum, you'll have people who may not, you know, identify or listen to like a certain genre of music every day, but they can appreciate the process because they love music. And I think a lot less people would be so like angry about things in life, because I get a lot of hate, like people like, oh, you're the reason why people have heart disease, you know, you're gonna have a heart attack, you're gonna die eating like
really.
And I think it's because they don't know how to see like joy. You know what I'm saying? Like how you're saying, like, okay, even if you see my page, you might not go eat what I'm eating, but you're like, take from it, like, oh, this guy's enjoying something. Let me enjoy whatever it is. Okay. When I'm busy enjoying whatever it is I enjoy, I don't have time to worry about what you're doing that rubs me the wrong way, you know?
Yeah. And I think part of it too, you know, Ryan, is like when you said, when people see you enjoying what you do, if they wake up every day and they're not enjoying what they do, it's easier for somebody to hate than it is for them to actually look in the mirror and say, I need to change and make change. And that's why people, you know, I realized this many years ago, and this is why people can't always be happy for you, because it's difficult. You're holding up a mirror to them saying, look, you know, there's changes you need to make in your life and you're not doing it simply by just waking up being excited about doing something different. So sometimes we think it's hate. It's just the inability for them to be able to, or they're not at the place where they can make that change that they know they need to make. So they go online and they'll become keyboard warriors and talk about you when they know if you're overweight, it's not a picture that's responsible for it. It's
No,
you. Like,
yeah, Instagram didn't exist
a picture.
when I was pushing 240, you know what I mean, 230. Like there was no IG. What am I gonna do?
Right.
Like beat up the Ronald McDonald? Like it's you know what I'm saying? Like we're all kind of navigating this same space. And you know, there's people who have real circumstance impacting their lives and impacting their ability. And I'm not saying that that caps anybody at being able to do things, but you know, when we're talking about financial constraints, you know, cultural things, like there's people that have real heavy feet on their neck, and they still push up and they still rise, right? And this is not to belittle anyone who's having a tough time with change. No, it's like we have to have perspective. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I think, you know, I was talking to these kids the other day, and I was saying, like, you know, for me, you know, your emotions, they don't dictate your actions, right? So like, say I go to a restaurant and it's just terrible, right? Say this is just bad service, whatever. I could choose to like be mad. I could cuss the person out. I could slander them on my account. Or I could choose to say, yo, maybe they're just having like a bad day. Or I could also choose to say, you know what? There's someone who's never been to a restaurant. There's someone who's only worked in a restaurant. There's some like, again, and this is not perspective or bragging, but like I get a lot of free meals. Like I have to have a built-in allowance for a couple bad ones. Like I'm never going to be like, oh man, you know who I am? This needs to be perfect. Again, like don't disrespect me. Don't walk on me. There's differences. But I mean, I choose how I see it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not being like soft or weak because I'm choosing gratitude. I think that's something that we also attribute to gratitude, and maybe being a little humble is like you're being soft or you're being weak. No, like that's power, because you're dictating what you see and what you feel. I don't know if we really appreciate how powerful it is to choose how we react. Like, you know, we think we hit something, cuss somebody, tear something down. That's power. Maybe you're physically strong. Maybe you're physically intimidating. And yo, like, I live a real life. Like, I'm a Black person. I know there's times where maybe the only choice is to rip something down or tear it down or be mad. Like, I'm not, you know, but I'm saying situationally, like people that kind of continually find themselves in situations where they're always angry, always lashing out, always snapping, the smallest thing gets to them. You know, you've really got to kind of reclaim your power. I don't even think that they're bad people. I think we've just, for a lot of us, been tricked into not understanding how powerful it is to choose to be okay. And it goes back to you telling me at the beginning, don't feel bad for feeling great, right? So it's all connected.
No, that's great, man. That's very powerful. There's a lot of power in being grateful, because once you're grateful, you attract more blessings and opportunities. You can't see it when you're ungrateful because you're so focused on the things that aren't working. Like, I'm sure there've been many times in my life where there was opportunities presented themselves, the right people, and I'm still focusing on all the things that weren't working. Here they go walking by me, and I'm like, and then when I step back and I'm grateful every day and I wake up, I'm so thankful for everything. It's like, it's like going from seeing in, you know, black and white or gray to color, you know, things just become more clear.
Right.
So, you know, when you're saying that, everyone's hearing all these great things that you're doing. Like, what's one real setback that you had that in your business that really kind of was really challenging for you to kind of figure it out and move through it?
Oh man. So I think a big setback that I had was, you know, imposter syndrome manifesting and playing really dirty tricks on me. So as I said before, I had no social media background before. You know, I shoot everything with a phone. You know, I've never even owned like a proper camera.
Wow. All those visuals are with a phone?
Yeah.
Man, your visuals are amazing, man.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you. But you know, I get into spaces where there's people with, you know, $5,000 cameras, $5,000 lenses, let alone cameras. And you know, the more you do work with big brands and corporations, and the bigger the scale of the projects, you know, sometimes there's like an expectation that, you know, you come with all of this technical ability. So that was one thing. And then a second thing was, you know, I you know, we have the benefit of our genetics not, making us look old and decrepit a lot of times. Black don't crack. But I mean, I'm a grown man in a very young person space, right? So a setback I had is when early on, I saw the TikTok thing like early. I was like, this is gonna hit. This is not gonna get kicked down by IG like Snapchat did. Like this is gonna, but I stayed off of it. Right. I was like, that's not for me. I'm a grown man. Like, I don't instead of thinking like, what can I do on there, right? That makes sense for me. That makes sense for my brand, my self-image, that can make me comfortable. I was just like, oh, those are kid things. Even though it's like, right, you see it. There's going to be money there. There's going to be new audience there.
Right.
And I mean, I'm on there now, and I was super late because I was afraid of how I look as a grown man, right? And I think a lot of times, and then where the technical thing came in is like people were shooting different ways. So I was like, very, very picture heavy. At the beginning of my account, it was just pictures of food. I wasn't even visual or like front facing. Right. And then I slowly start to implement myself and then get comfortable with some video stuff and, the reels and going live. And I found that. But again, it felt like a new world in space. And I think I kind of just like, if I hadn't had the vision to say that it was like legitimately going to be a force and I just missed it, I could chop it up to that. Be like, oh, right, you know what? You were wrong. Right. This was the thing you should have been on. But I knew, and I just let like insecurity keep me off of that. And now there's people I know who their IG, I might have, I don't know how much more, but they're like killing it over there. And I could have leveraged the fact that I had a massive following on IG there early.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can't even get my name on TikTok because someone set up Eat Famous.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Wow. So like, again, another place where like fear and also truths, like, a message to anybody watching is like, even when you have success, you can still doubt yourself, right? Because I had success on a social platform. You would expect that another social platform pops up. I'm just able to like navigate right over, but I didn't. So I think, finding yourself, when I speak to the imposter syndrome, is because I was able to do well on social media with no social expertise, with no technical photography skills. Like you always, if something doesn't go right, I'm always just like, well, you know what, like you're really not supposed to be here. You're more of a guest. So just be happy that, you're here. Right. But it's like, no, man, like I'm running like this stuff in the city. I'm a part of the people that are kind of defining.
Oh, you're a major influencer. You're a major influencer. A lot of people come to your content. A lot of people go to your Instagram to be like, where is he eating? You only go to the hot spots. Like when I see it, I'm like, if Ryan ate there and he's promoting it, I need to go there. And so that's the type of influence that you have. And, one of the things I definitely am with you with all these different social media and TikTok came. I'm like, I'm a motivational speaker and a coach. Right. Like, what am I doing on? Yeah. And then I started to do the dancing thing and I'm like, I dance and I love music, but like, is that my brand? And then I really just started speaking like the same way I speak on Instagram. And, I'm slowly building my following, but like, how did you get to like 264,000 followers organically? Because there's a lot of people buying followers. How'd you do it organically? I know a lot of people are like, how the heck did this guy do this?
Man. So, again, I'm not big on, I'm a humble person, but I'm not big on stripping away anything I've done to make people feel comfortable or feel like, oh, I'm still one of the gang, even though I've got this great number. But I will say, and I do believe in this is not, and, trying to be self-deprecating or anything like that. But I definitely feel like I one of the areas where I was lucky, because I think with any success, you still need a bit of luck. Yeah. And I think my luck was being early. Like I was very early on the food thing in Toronto. So at the time it was at that stage in Instagram where like the communities were building. So literally when I started, everybody who was into food would like meet up. We would go to like all the dinners together and like, the PR companies were getting put onto the fact that restaurants, because restaurants really, unless you were like a restaurant in LA, like Toronto restaurants didn't PR per se.
Right.
And then all of the restaurants started getting PR because social was buzzing, and then they were reaching out to all the influencers at that time. So, I built a network of the people who like genuinely loved it, right? So then we all kind of became, I don't want to say like gatekeepers, but I don't know what the term would be, but like we were just like the go-to people for food. So it's like at that beginning point, a lot of people, and maybe not everybody obviously didn't get to like what I did, going over 100,000 or whatever, but you still see a lot of those people from those early days with like 10, 15, 20, because if you were into food, we were the people to follow.
Wow.
For myself, I think that, well, actually, no, I'm not going to say I think I know. Again, the same thing I said about, being that guy at Coke that like everybody liked, being good to be around is the same thing. Like I wasn't, people are showing up to these food meetups with cameras and I'm standing with my phone. So like, I'm like endearing myself to people. I'm asking questions. I'm supporting them. So I'm building within community. So like to anyone who's watching, like you might not have the benefit of entering a space when it's growing. So although I do credit being at the inception, you still have always a chance to like, build like a genuine like relationships with people.
Right.
I did that because Danny, I'll tell you, you see the first, and I keep them for in slides and presentations. But if you see the the early Eat Famous pictures, like yeah, like I can tell if it was a cheesecake or a cheesesteak. Like it just dog food. It was crazy. Like really, but I mean, I was always willing to like learn. You know what I'm saying? Like I asked questions, I took tips, and then again, I just knew like that people like things that look good. So I would just kind of like build on it. I was like, and I believe in possibilities. So I'm like, I'm seeing accounts. I'm like, these pictures look good. So I have to be able to get there.
Right.
Like, it's not impossible.
Right.
I just don't know how to do it yet. Yet is like a big thing.
Yet.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yet. If you see possibility, you can get there. And then again, because I'm a very big relationship person, is my pictures, they weren't great initially. It was growing slowly. So this is prior to like being kind of like in the food community and getting invited to events. This is early. How I got to the stage where people started reaching out to me is I'm thinking, okay, how do I build like relationships? And like to me, although I wasn't big on social, what I do understand is why social works is like we like to be acknowledged, we like to be seen, we like, we like love, we like comments, we like people being interested in what we're doing. So I really dug deep in. Once a week, I would do this thing called Eat Famous Feature Fridays, where like, Monday to Thursday, you're getting my doo-doo pictures, but Friday, I'm picking like the best pic I can see on Instagram. I'm messaging that person saying, hey, I would love to feature you on my account because I think what you're doing is great. Do you mind if I post your picture to my account?
Great.
99.9 times out of 100, they're saying yes, of course. Because again, community is growing. People like to be featured. People like to be, held up high, right? So what does that do? That connects me to that person. So they're following me. Someone who does dope work follows me. So someone's like, oh, they follow Ryan.
Right.
Has to be some here, right? They're starting conversation. And then what does that also do is other people are like, oh, Ryan are featuring people. Now people are sending me pictures saying, hey, Ryan, you want to throw this up? Right. So again, now I'm being a trusted source. And as I'm talking to these people who I'm featuring, I'm like, yo, what light do you use? Hey, do you usually like shoot? When you go to a restaurant, do you take the food by the window, or do you know what I'm saying? Or hey, I like that pic you did, Ryan, but you could do this a little different. Now I'm building relationships. Good. And I'm talking to the people who know what they're doing, right? I wasn't like, oh, hey, how do you do what you do? Which is fine. I answer that DM. I answer that message. I do because I know I was able to grow on the backs of people who are generous with information. I never hold back. I'll never try to like keep secrets to myself. But for me, I figure that anybody that's really good at something is busy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to come to you without something. I'm not saying you have to bring something for me to help you, but most people, there's got to be, because like, if you're good at something, you're probably doing a lot of it and you're probably busy. So my gift or my give to them, my entry point was saying, hey, I love what you're doing. I'm going to share my space with you. Wow. It it wasn't a great place to be at first, but it worked.
It's a
And
great
then
strategy.
again, yeah, and then the hashtag, the repetition. So then I told people, hey, if you want to be featured, use this hashtag Eat Famous. So there's more people that think Eat Famous is a hashtag than they know that it's an account now.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's getting close to 5 million times it's been used. And on TikTok, I might be gassed. Can I check?
Yeah, check it out.
I think it's like 3 billion.
What?
I think.
Wow.
I remember I told you I was late to TikTok.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Something I created exists like way beyond me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really
so this is way beyond social media. This is a full out movement. It's a business.
Yeah.
You know, it's a community of people. And I think that's what people have to understand about what you're doing. And we're going to start to wrap up in a little bit, but I think what they need to understand is that you can take something as a side hustle, as a passion, and it can grow bigger than you ever thought. And that's what I'm seeing. It's not just now it's a business. Like, so now you have brands paying you in restaurants. So like, talk a little bit about the business side so that people can understand this isn't just you posting, it's a business.
Yeah. It definitely is. Sustains me. This is how I eat. This is how bills get paid. This is how, my daughter's future is being prepared. Right. It's a real thing. And a funny story before I kind of dig into the business side. Well, is like the first, I want to say 3 times that I got emails from brands wanting to work with me, I deleted them. I thought they were scams. Like, I might be dating or aging myself, but like this is before, I guess the term content creator was a thing. And it was definitely before a regular person like myself would be paid to influence people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, unless somebody was a celebrity, like, why would a brand give you money to say that you do something? Like, that's not happening. So the first few times I was like, they're emailing me to ask if like they can put a picture of their spaghetti sauce on my thing. And I'm like, oh no, I'm an artist. I'm not going to like, because again, it was very early. I'm going to jeopardize because now I'm good. Right. So now I'm like, oh, my pictures are good. I'm not putting these things. But then I think by the time the 3rd or 4th email came, I hit up my boy, the same one, Terry, who had that business idea that sparked Eat Famous. And I was like, bro, like, people are hitting me. Maybe we've got something here on a business tip. So it started with, very, very small brands paying for me to post something on their account. The first couple of clients I had were American. So it wasn't even me taking up that photo for them. People would send me content. And because I was still featuring other people's work at that time, I was fine with it. Once it kind of fit the parameters and the image looked, good enough to go on the feed, I would do that. And then I started to get a lot more brand work. So I had to decide to stop featuring people a couple of years ago, and just all the content now is all me, because I had to set a realistic expectation for brands, so that if they're looking at the account, they know that if they want something that looks like picture X, I can do that for them because I created picture X.
Right.
So then it moved to restaurants hiring me to do their social media or to come in and take photos for them. So I've run social media accounts for a lot of the most popular restaurants, helped a lot of them grow. Wow. And then I do a ton of brand work. So, a couple of the companies that you listed off, the McDonald's and Air Miles, Amex, Raps. So it could be a situation where I'm creating content for them that lives on my account. Sometimes I'm creating content for them to use on their own social channels. I've done consulting for restaurants. It's led me to speaking engagements, and I have a great relationship with the city of Toronto. So I work with Destination Toronto, the city's official website and hub. I'm an ambassador for them. So I do a lot of content on their channels, on mine, for the city. So it's like you said, a lot of different interests of mine, aside from, taking photos of food, kind of fuel what I am, what I do.
Wow, man.
But
that's amazing.
I get to travel. Post since COVID hit, I haven't done any work. But like the last trip I took, actually just the month before Avery was born, I was in California doing a I was working with Destination California, their tourism board, to do like a Michelin restaurant tour. I've been to France for work. I've been to Spain, to Italy. Special trip was Barbados because my parents are from Barbados, and Barbados hired me to come cover their food and rum festival, which is dope because it was like, my parents were born there, worked hard to come here to give me a life, and now the country that raised them is paying me to come back and highlight them. So that was a very cool full circle moment.
Wow.
Yeah, man. And again, like I know, like it's beautiful to do, the things that you're good at, that you love, but it's still a lot of work.
It's work. Yeah.
Again, if I'm telling you, I'm a partner for the city of Toronto. I'm a partner with Google. Like there's no leash or little wiggle room to just be a little, they're treating me as they would treat any business partner. Right. And I think that's an important thing for us to look at too, is I think a big gap that like entrepreneurs allow themselves to fall into is we think because we're not walking into a building and pressing an elevator button, going to the 25th floor, that we're not a business, right? So not only conducting ourselves in a professional manner, but holding other people to that standard as well, and being just as stringent with them as they would be with you. Like if someone misses a deadline, like they can't do that to me because, I'm an influencer or I'm taking pictures. Like, no, this is business, right? So you hold yourself to a high standard, you treat yourself as a business if you are, and you make sure that those dealing with you are treating you as a business.
Man, Ryan, like I'm just so proud of everything that you're doing. When I just seeing the whole journey and seeing your commitment and knowing the work that you put in and just hearing all of this, it's just like, man, I'm just so proud of your journey and just for sticking with it. It's not just you posting some pictures, it's work, like you're saying. And every time I see your posts and, every time I see something come through, I'm just like, man, Ryan is at it again. And it's just, to me, to see the evolution of where you started and where you are, it's really amazing to me. And it just shows that like when you are focused and you're committed and you just ask questions, it's not about how you get things done. It's about who you can connect with to teach you the how. And you exemplified that. You were asking people questions. It's about, we call it who, not how. You figured out the who, not the how. And the how showed you the who. The who showed you the how. So, I think one other question I want to ask you is like, what do you see next for Eat Famous? What's on the horizon?
Right. So I see a lot, I feel like there's not really any kind of cap that I would ever put or a ceiling, because again, it came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like what I do now didn't even exist when I started. And I've done things that I wanted to, like I've set goals that I've hit, but most of the things I've done, I couldn't even conceive, you know what I'm saying? So like to know that I was able to do things. My laptop. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. So to know that I was able to do things that I wanted to do, and it was back to what you said, that like the belief before, it was not, the belief came after I had hit certain marks. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. But a lot of it, that I've done wasn't even on my radar. So I know what I have in the pipeline. Like there's a show coming.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
That'll be amazing. A show would be, oh my goodness. Man.
There's a show coming. We're starting to shoot in June.
Congratulations, brother. Congratulations, man.
Thanks. And I think just more things like this. Like I've been really fortunate to have the opportunity to transition into a lot of speaking to young people, and a lot of young people of color who need our message. And again, you said something where we don't know how far like what we're doing can hit. Before we jumped on, you spoke about an email that you got, and you have to think about like, that person is a highly esteemed person. So that's incredible that your messages are reaching people in high places. But what was big to me is you mentioned that he said that like our family enjoys it. So he's saying, listening to that, to you, sorry, with his boys, like you don't know what his boys can become. Like our legacies, man, like, we're thinking about, how we want to be seen or what we can set up and do for those who love us and our families, but it's so far reaching. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know who that kid in the car listening to your words of wisdom is going to be. Mm-hmm. You don't know if like he could choose to I don't know, like something that you said could literally have someone make a choice that like saves lives, builds empires, changes like you don't know, right? So be mindful of what you put out there, you know what I'm saying? Because it'll stretch far, far beyond what we think, where we think it's going. Right.
No, that's so true. That's so true.
Man, like again, bro, I'm not joking. Like even when you wrote your book, I like I said, I was still just in the middle of my regular job. I didn't know what I was going to be doing, but again, it was always something that inspired me. You know what I'm saying? And then I remember, and I saw Trudy wrote, like these are people I know. Like, we could do great things. And I was like, these are people that like. It's not like if I see you guys or when we met at the get-togethers, you were looking down at me or like we're not talking. So it wasn't like, oh, there's a gap between these are people like me.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I had to do, but like and again, this is not like because I'm on here with you, but again, we don't always get time. But when I was reflecting, I was like, yo, I remember, because we get asked a lot about like how we did things. And I always try to remember like, what were the moments, who were the people that did stuff that I was like, wow. So when I have like moments that make people say, wow, I could be like, nah, man, it's not an anomaly. Like, it's not like I'm so special,
right?
Or this weird thing. Cause I could point to you and I could point to all those people I put in my pocket that did things that impressed me.
Me too.
So that I can let other people know, like, it's not just me. So I'm not just telling you this cause I tripped and got lucky and stumbled in some. So, yeah, man.
No, well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And you inspire me. Like what you're doing with the movement is really inspiring me and the TV show coming and everything, man. I'm just so happy for you because I just know that you're a good person and the love and the passion that you have for other people, like to want to see them win. And that's, sometimes it's hard to come by because other people are happy for you when they're doing better than you. But when you do better than them, it's like, then the hate gets turned on. So you've always been that person who you're always supporting me. You're liking my posts and you always DM me. And I do the same with you. And so I just want to say, I appreciate that friendship and the support. And it means a lot to me. And I want to wrap up with the same two questions that I ask everybody. The first question is, what does grind mean to you?
Wow. So grind to me, what it means to me is like, grind to me is faith, because I will be willing to do something hard. I'll be willing to do something tedious. I'll be willing to do something at the expense of something I'd rather do if I have the faith that I know I'm going to be so happy I did it later. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Like that's grind to me. Like, because I know, there's different perspectives. It's like there could be a negative perspective on it, like, and then also, people embrace it. And I think, it's a word that I feel like, it doesn't always get its true reverence. Like people will say it, but are they really doing it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm on my grind. It's a very commonly used expression. And there's a lot of people I know who are, and it pays off and it shows and it lights light that lets me, kind of move down my path in faith, because I'm like, yeah, man, like they're grinding and they're shining light and I can see that it's worth it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's for me. It means faith. Like it means that, because like, again, like I said, I'm not a great worker. I'm kind of even a lazy guy. Like sometimes I'm like, how'd you get where you're going? Like you're super lazy. But like, if I know that it's going to pay off, right, then yeah, I will grind away. Yeah.
I love that. That's a really, I've never heard that answer. So that's a really powerful answer. And my last question that I ask everybody is, what does gratitude mean to you?
Oh man, that is everything. Like beyond, I don't know if like there's something that I try to remember and express more, you know? Like I said before, I said it, it's sometimes I think people will position it as something that's like weak, or that, you're kind of just softening up, or, you don't want to like face confrontation. But no, to me, like it's so important because like, I'm not gonna just be like naive about life. And again, but I like it goes back to what I said about having power. And I think you can only truly have that power when you're grateful, because gratitude like lends to so many other really, really good attributes. Like like without gratitude, you don't get perspective, right? Without gratitude, like I don't know if you can really feel joy, because like it's vapid. If you're not grateful for something and you're happy you got it, then you're happy you got it for like the wrong reason. You know what I mean? Like if someone gets a lottery win and like, like it's like a million, like someone who's born rich winning the lottery, or you hear about those people that win the lottery twice. Like, hey, sure, good for you. I'm not hating, but like, could it be possible to be as grateful as that person that's struggling, that like didn't know where the next meal is coming from? You know what I mean? So like gratitude ties to like, I think like pure joy, all of the things that are great, patience, all these attributes about people, they're usually grateful people, because again, gratitude just means like you're able to focus on the good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More, and you don't let the distractions, you don't let your ego, you don't let like things that are probably not going to last take away from your joy. And I think if you're grateful for your joy, and like you reference, like whether it's God, the universe, whoever you believe in, if you know that it comes from somewhere or a divine force, and as much as like, we do things for ourselves. We do things for ourselves because of the gifts that we got, or the people around us, or our experiences. So it's never just singular, right? So that gratitude means that like you're really having your eyes open to like where you got anything that's good from, And man, you hear of people all the time who I would give them all right to be mad. I would give them all right to have a bad attitude. There's so many people I know who are good people, Danny, that I'm like, I look at their circumstance and I'm like, man, even me who's like super happy go lucky, I don't know if I could carry smiles with what I know you're going through. And if they aren't providing me an excuse to be grateful and to, choose what's right, choose love, choose faith, then like I'd be crazy, Yeah.
Man, that's so good, man. Ryan, brother, man, this was a really good conversation, man. I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of takeaways. I think a lot of people are going to replay it back because they're going to see themselves. They're going to see themselves working in a job and trying to find their way through, or turning a passion into a business. So, I just want to say thanks so much for being here. And I really appreciate you taking the time. Let everybody know again, where they can find you online and where they can check you out.
Man, so you can get me online at Eat Famous, so EATFAMOUS on Instagram. Because, like I said, I doubted myself on TikTok. You can find me at Eat Famous Official. I just got on there, just trying to grow that. And yeah, man, hopefully you see me on a screen near you sooner than later.
We'll be looking out for that, man. Brother, thank you again so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Everybody, make sure that you go over to Eat Famous, follow him, comment, love the pictures, because it's really food porn. You'll love what you see. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you being here. That's it for this episode of the Grind and Gratitude Show, everyone. I will catch you in the next episode. Take care.